Hello, my name is Jouni Vilkka and this is TFF Teacher from Finland. What do social contract theories, Constructarianism, Contractualism, Institutionalism, Ethical Consensualism, the Consensus Theory of Ethics, Discourse Ethics, Kantian Constructivism, and Sentimentalism have in common in the context of metaethics? They are all forms of constructivism. Stick around and I will explain what I mean by that. If you are interested in this subject, perhaps you should also consider subscribing to my channel. Constructivism in metaethics is the idea that morals are constructed in some sense by some entity. Earlier I discussed supernaturalism, where the constructionist view is that a god or a similar being has created morals. In other traditional religious views about morals, the moral laws are seen as part of an agreement or contract between God and his chosen people. In exchange for obeying God's law, the people are supposed to gain his protection. Somewhat similarly, there are social contract theories that try to justify the political order and laws by appealing to a somewhat mythical contract. The people allegedly agree to the rules of the contract, obeying the laws or suffering the consequences of disobeying them, and in turn gain the protection of the state. The moral basis of law is thus in the contract. It is mythical in the sense that no one probably thought that such a contract had ever actually been made. It is rather a way of explaining where the power and legitimacy of the laws comes from, and how it benefits the people to continue holding their end of the mythical bargain, so to speak. Contractualism and Contractarianism are names for theories that base morality on agreements, or as the name of the theory suggests, contracts. Institutionalism, ethical consensualism, and discourse ethics are all terms for essentially the same basic idea that morals are about consensus, which may also imply contracts. Kantian constructivism is also something very similar. What they all have in common is the use of reason or rational discussion to construct a foundation for morality. Where they differ is exactly how this comes about. Because of their emphasis on the use of reason, they significantly differ from sentimentalism, which focuses on emotions instead of reason as the source of morality. Sentimentalism can be seen as a form of emotivism, because both see emotions as the root of morals. The difference is that morals, according to sentimentalists like David Hume, should be based on emotions. Human reason can show how to achieve things, but emotions or passions set the goals, which reason is incapable of doing. It does not motivate us. Kindness, compassion, and other benevolent emotions guide us to good, while malice and indifference lead us to evil. Unlike other emotivists, who see no significance in the quality of the emotions, sentimentalists think we ought to follow the benevolent emotions. Morals constructed by good-natured people should then make for a good guideline for everyone to follow. In contrast to the sentimentalist view, Kantian constructivism ignores emotions and considers reason itself to be a capable guide for morals. I will return to Immanuel Kant's views on ethics later when dealing with normative ethics. Here I will only focus on the source of morals in the Kantian view, not the actual norms he thought we should adopt. The force of those norms arises, according to this view, through reasoning. Proper thinking makes one see what anyone and everyone should do in given circumstances, and so the philosopher, understanding that it applies to herself as well, must then obey the same general rule. This is somewhat similar to Aristotle's belief that practical reasoning will result in the person actually performing the inferred action. How plausible do you think these views are? Which is more likely to motivate your action? Your emotions or reasoning? Comment below. Jürgen Habermas has thought of a different approach to a rational basis for morals and political philosophy. It is based on the concept of ideal communication. It requires the participants to accept only the power of good arguments while renouncing the use of force and threats, and to honestly listen to each other and seek the truth. Discussion in the best possible spirit can lead the discourse to the best arguments, and thus the strongest possible foundation for morals. This view has been called discourse ethics or ethical consensualism or the consensus theory of ethics or institutionalism. These names refer to the main point that this is not about one philosopher finding the truth, but about a major communal project. Ideally, the whole society is involved. This is similar to the social contract theories, but instead of creating a mythical past, the idea is to actually create the conditions of ideal communication, and not even just have one discussion to end all discussions, but rather to continue talking and revising the accepted views as the need to do so arises. What gives the name for this theory is the search for a consensus among the participants of the discourse. When such a consensus has been achieved, it means that the norm or moral statement is universally valid. Although this is not likely to be achieved, it can still be considered the ideal, the goal of the discourse. If we accept this goal, and I think most people would be ready to accept it, we have to accept the need for achieving the ideal conditions for the discussion. This alone has implications for morals. We have to accept the requirements of honest pursuit of truth, and we have to discard purely cultural morals that lack universality. Whether or not the ideal discourse is achieved, people do manage at least something approaching that in open, more or less democratic societies. Concepts like human rights can be seen as results of public discussion in such societies and international arenas like the United Nations. These concepts are used in international and national law, and especially the former is clearly a matter of contracts. The idea that moral values and principles can be based on such contracts is called contractarianism or contractualism. These terms can be used for somewhat different theories, but for the purposes of this course, what matters is that the basis of morals is in contracts of some sort. What is especially noteworthy is that the contracts thus created can be seen and used as binding even to parties that have not signed them, although this is not normally the case with contracts or even in international law. In exceptional cases, like the Nazi trials after the Second World War, it has been decided that the contracts or new international laws regarding crimes against humanity apply to everyone, even if they had not existed at the time when the crimes were committed, and even though the country in question, Nazi Germany, had not signed or ratified the contract, which is the usual requirement for the contract to become an international law. Similarly, international criminal tribunals may be set up for trials against alleged war criminals, like the former president of the Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, Slobodan Milosevic, even if the country in question had not agreed to accept the ruling of such a tribunal. It seems incontestable that parties agreeing to a contract with full knowledge without being coerced accept the conditions of the agreement and therefore any potential repercussions that derive from the agreement. The parties making such an agreement may agree that they will be punished in certain ways for certain actions, or that a certain party will act as a judge in cases of disagreement between the signatories. They then promise to accept the rulings of that judge. A contract like this is clearly morally binding to all the signatories. It can be seen as a set of morals for them. The situation is less obvious if others are held to the same demands without having had a say regarding the contents of the contract. Which is not to say that this shouldn't be done, just that many would prefer a stronger foundation for ethics. Of course, we can't expect to just get what we would prefer. My next video will be about emotivism and prescriptivism. Bye for now. If you wish to support my channel, please click thumbs up, subscribe and share my videos. Any comments on the videos would also be welcome.